just finished installing your new PoEWit's wireless access point, and in this video we will show you how to use the PoEWit's app to configure your newly installed AP. When installing access points, there are two main scenarios you will encounter. The first scenario, as depicted in this diagram, you already have an existing wireless network that's operational and you're just adding and configuring new access points to that network. In the second scenario, you don't have any wireless networks established and you're setting up a wireless access point for the first time. Connecting and configuring through the PoEWit's app is the same in both scenarios. The main difference in the two solutions is the access point you connect your mobile phone to. To discover and configure the network where you have an existing wireless access point, you would connect to the existing SSID first. And from there, you would discover the new access point and apply the configuration. In this case, where you're already connected to the existing access point, the new PoEWit's access point will copy the existing settings and reboot. You will never lose connectivity because of the PoEWit's cloud. In the second scenario, where you're trying to establish a new wireless network, you would connect to the new access point's default SSID using the default passcode. From there, you will have connectivity to the access point and to the PoEWit's cloud. So now you will set up the access point with the new SSIDs and passcode and whatever other configuration you would like. Once you launch that configuration to the access point, you will lose connectivity momentarily because it will go through a setup function and then reboot itself. Once the reboot is finished, you will see the new SSID and configuration you established in the network, and then you can reconnect using the PoEWit's app. We just downloaded and installed the PoEWit's app, and we went ahead and plugged in our newly installed access point to the PoE wireless network, and now we're ready to configure it. First, when we do a scan of the network, we will see that in the default state, the PoEWit's access point will be broadcasting a 2.4G and a 5.0G guest network, and also a main network in the PoEWit's 2.4G network, and also the one we connected to, the PoEWit's 5G network. You will need a default passcode to connect to this network, which you can find in the Quick Start manuals. Now, let's go into the PoEWit's app and do the final configuration of this access point. What you want to do is go to the Network tab, and from here you'll see a plus symbol in the top right side of the app. This is the Discovery button, which we want to click so we can scan the network and search for any new access points like the one we just installed. Now you will see the new access point that we just connected, and if you select it, you will see the wireless symbol blink, and this will correspond to the physical access point where all LEDs are currently blinking. This will allow you to identify the access point just in case you're setting up more than one at the same time. So from here, after you select it, you want to hit save and bring it into our app. Now it has been added successfully, and to do further configuration, we want to hit the edit button, and from here, we could give it a custom name and specify the country code. Now, the next button is important because once you set up this access point, and if you want the same settings to apply across all access points within the household network, then you want to select this checkbox. Next is the LED button, which allows you to turn the physical LEDs on or off in the access point. And in this case, we want to leave them on. The first step to set up the access point is to go into the security profiles, and here are two factory default profiles already set up for you. So from here, we want to give it a name, and in this case, we want to call it VLAN1. And then we want to give it a passcode, and then we want to save it. Also keep in mind that this is the passcode that you will use when a guest wants to connect into the wireless network. Next, we have our first security profile set up, which we can apply to any SSIDs that we want to. Now we can set up the radios, and if you want to do custom setting on channel or wireless mode on the radio you want to broadcast, you could do that by clicking edit. However, the main point here is you want to turn radios either on or off. So 2.4G, you want that on, and the 5G, you want it on as well, which is the factory default. Next, To set up the SSID configuration from here, the first button that we want to point out is the band steering button. Now by default, we have the band steering off. And what that band steering does is for devices that are 5G capable, it encourages the device to kick over to the 5 because that's a better network to be connected to. And that's where you will achieve the very high speeds. Band steering is an encouragement on the device, and ultimately it is up to the wireless device that's connected to this AP to decide to make the switch and to enforce those policies. So by default, and our recommendation is that you leave band steering off. If you click it, you'll automatically notice that only one SSID will remain. That's all you'll see on the network, that one SSID. And then it's up to the client to switch to whichever band it wants to connect to. For our demonstration, we will leave it off. And let's manually configure both networks, the 2.4 and the 5.0 separately. By factory default, there are two SSIDs automatically set up. So let's go ahead and configure one. And for this demonstration, let's call the first one PoEWit's 24-1. And then we want to select the security profile, which is VLAN 1. Which we set up earlier, and we want that connected to the VLAN 1 subnet, and from here we hit save. Now we want to move over to the 5.0, and we want to create a separate SSID for the 5.0 network, and let's call it PoEWit's 5.0-1. And then we want to select the security profile VLAN 1 as well, and hit save. Now we have the new SSID we just created selected. And let's turn off the old SSIDs since we don't want those to be broadcasted anymore. So first, I'm turning off the 2.4 factory default SSID, so moving forward, we'll have the PoEWit's 24-1 as our default SSID. And let's also disable the PoEWit's 5.0-1 as well. The last tab, which had nothing to do with the settings, just shows what client is connected to the network. So with all those settings done, all we need to do is go up and hit the save button. And once we hit the save button, it'll automatically save it to the wireless access point. And from here, since we're changing a lot of configurations, including the SSID, the access point will reboot. The whole reboot process will take 30 to 60 seconds approximately for the access point to come back online. And once that whole process is complete, you will then see the new SSIDs that you just configured. If you like our videos, don't forget to follow, share, and subscribe. See you next time!